Hey, Expedite, you're now rocking with the Inner Circle podcast, the premier podcast for Xbox One. I'm your host, KLR SKLL, and with B Money 101
Hey, what's up, everybody?
and Anchorman V.
Hey, everybody.
And of course, we are missing Skittles 1323, but he is away moment at this particular time. We are the Inner Circle podcast. Today we have a lot to talk about and a lot to give our opinions about. It's unfortunate news, what we heard today. And, I woke up this morning and I said to myself, okay, today's a good day. Overall, I'm thinking to myself, okay, the division comes out at midnight. I've been having fun playing Far Cry Primal. Microsoft has been talking about upgrades to consoles, and it's got me excited and revigorated, and what they're doing, what their plans are for the future. And then I wake up, and all of a sudden I just have these tweets all over the feed, and I'm like, what is going on? And you look at it, and people are like, oh my God, have you seen this? Have you read this? Oh, they killed Lionhead, they've killed Fable, they've killed Press Play, and I'm just like bugging. So when you get this type of news, when you first wake up, your brain doesn't register things right. Not exactly. You wake up in the morning and you're still kind of groggy, you're still trying to figure things out. But I just know that Microsoft is losing studios. That's the only thing that's on my mind. And Microsoft is a company that cannot afford to lose studios. Like they really cannot afford to lose studios. So I'm sitting here and I just go off on this rant, and I really don't sit there and kind of reflect on really what I'm saying or what I'm doing. I'm just upset that they're losing studios, knowing the situation that they're in as a fan of the brand. And it's like Microsoft overall has, as a company, has been doing extremely well as a company. They've been doing amazingly well. The Surface has been a success. It's constantly growing. The Surface book sold out in minutes. Their phones are but they're getting better. They're getting there. Obviously the Windows operating system has taken off really, really big worldwide. I mean, they're in multi-millions at this point, and they're really making moves. The only problem that they've been having communication-wise, and as well as a few other things, is this Xbox division this generation. It's funny because you look at last generation, and the entire fan base dealt with Red Ring of Death. They really did. They dealt with Red Ring of Death, and more people feel like they love the 360 than they love this new generation of consoles and the Xbox One in general. Now, I've always stated that the Xbox One, in my opinion, is the most versatile console on the market. It's the reason why I think it's the best console on the market, because it can adapt. You don't get that from any other consoles. The operating system they have, and this allows it to really adapt to different situations, and that's why I'm glad that they built it the way they did. I mean, obviously, in the process, you made a lot of sacrifices. There was a lot of mistakes made with the Xbox One. And as they start to go on this new endeavor with Windows 10 and the ecosystem, something that at launch no one ever spoke about, no one ever talked about. And that's because this is just a different vision overall. Microsoft has literally changed the vision like multiple times of what they want with Xbox. And I feel like the Xbox brand itself obviously is making changes, but they've just been taking L's. They've been taking L's left and right. And if for those of you who don't know what an L is, they've been taking a loss. It seems like every time they take a step forward, they take a 2 steps back. And when you get positive news, even if the positive news is so great that it shouldn't be overshadowed, there's always something small that comes out that's negative that completely overshadows the positive news. I really thought that they made great strides with what they showed at the spring event, showing off some of the games they got coming out, showing off Killer Instinct, showing off Quantum Break. I mean, I really was hyped. Everything was great. Talking about upgradable consoles in the future and being able to scale games based on the UWP, and obviously moving to a new system without losing any of your older content or any of your older apps or games or anything like that. To me, that's genius. But then the news comes out today that they are closing down Lionhead Studios and Press Play, and they're canceling Knoxville in Fable Legends. Now, before I let my team talk, I just want people to like kind of understand where I'm coming from. Lionhead Studios overall is a studio that makes RPGs. I love RPGs. It's the one thing that hurts my soul with the Xbox brand is that I feel like they don't get enough. Not that there's not a lot out there third party wise. Of course there are. Of course there are. But I feel like they, as a studio, they don't produce enough. Fable, as a franchise, was that game that they could have built into something special. And they didn't get rid of the IP. Don't get it twisted. The IP still belongs to Microsoft. It is not to say that they can't move that IP to somewhere else. My question is now, when it comes to Fable, and now that Lionhead is gone, and maybe some of the people move, maybe some of the bigger heads within Lionhead move, but the smaller team is gone. They probably moved on to other places or looking for work as we speak. But what happens to Fable at this point? Does the artwork change? The direction change? Do you make a new game and just slap Fable on it? What studio picks it up? Knoxville, on the other hand, was something that we voted for. As fans, we voted for this game. We watched the development. We joined in the development. I had Press Play on the show twice and spoke about their games. And Max Cursor Brotherhood and Kalimba were actually really good games. Kalimba was actually a highly rated, smaller IP. And I don't understand. I can see if both Max and both Kalimba flopped. But I'm not understanding why Press Play of all studios was the ones that get the shaft and get booted. Then you turn around and you look at earlier last year, Twisted Pixel had moved on as well. It's a sad state of affairs for a company that wants to show strength in the brand and show strength in the console, but you're losing studios that you really can't afford to lose. On top of that, for those of you out there who say, well, what about Scalebound? What about Quantum Break? What about Recore? Don't get me wrong, I love those, and I'm super glad they own those IPs, but I said this before. You cannot rely on outsourcing with third-party companies. You just can't. Anybody who believes otherwise, you're fooling themselves. That is not something you can sustain long term. You just can't do it. And when those studios get tired of making those games, what do you do then? I think of Lost Odyssey and I think of Blue Dragon when those things come to mind. Those are two franchises that Microsoft had publisher rights to, and I believe they own Lost Odyssey and I believe they own Blue Dragon at the same time. And at that particular moment, you don't see another game from them because Mistwalker's not making any games for Microsoft. Yet the IPs are with Microsoft. They haven't made a Japanese studio to make those games or continue those franchises. I'm not understanding what's happening at this point, and it's kind of disappointing that this happened. Now, clearly, Fable Legends was a pit. It was a money pit. Anchors talked about this. We've talked about this numerous times. Fable Legends have been pushed back over and over and over. It just was a game that I think the community did not want. I just really believe that. It just was a game that nobody really wanted. We wanted Fable 4. And I think we wanted Fable 4 because Peter Molyneux had nothing to do with the game. I think that was the biggest thing, to see if Lionhead could sustain themselves without Peter Molyneux. But instead, they went into a different direction. And they put out this game I think nobody really wanted. I don't think that it would have had a long, sustaining lifespan because the game was supposed to be a 10-year thing. It was supposed to have updated seasons and changes as the years went on with the game. But I don't think Microsoft could sustain that. I think them putting money into Knoxville and getting people to play the game and things like that, financially, they probably could not sustain it. I said this a 1,000 times over. The Microsoft we knew that was under Ballmer and Matrick is not the Microsoft we have today. Satya Nadella and Phil Spencer, they are not throwing money at the Xbox. They're just not. You look at their indie games as well. They're very selective in what they're putting on the Xbox. As of right now, they've done a great job. I'm not saying they haven't done a good job. They've done a great job. But at the same time, you can see that this is not what Microsoft used to do with the 360. And the reason why the 360 was so big, you know, they just threw money at everything. The marketing was always big. Everything they did big. People knew, people heard. There was marketing all over the planet. You're just not getting that same type of sustained effort, in this generation. And then there's also other factors to it, of course. I'm not saying that there's not, but there's just a difference between then and now. And I feel like they're not putting money into Fable Legends because Fable Legends was a pit. In my opinion, you cancel the studio. You release a few employees, but I mean, you cancel the game, not the studio. You cancel the game. You move a few employees, but why cancel the studio? Why the entire studio? That's a completely different thing. It's the same thing with Press Play. Usually, you cancel a project because it's just not financially. It's a pit. It's not working out. But you cancel the entire studio employees. That says a lot. That really says a lot. People make it seem like it's not a big deal because Sony does it all the time. That's Sony. You know what I'm saying? Like Sony is the Sony PlayStation has had a long time to build what they built. And they've had a ton of studios. They had enough studios. We're getting rid of some studios you don't even notice, or it doesn't even matter because they've had that amount of studios. Microsoft has been trying to grow their studios over time, but when you really look at the board of what they're growing, they had Connect Studios, pointless. HoloLens Studios, pointless. There's a whole bunch of other studios we don't know what they do. And the ones we think are actually doing something, they're not doing anything special. So, I just don't understand what is the situation and what is happening over there at Microsoft. And this needs to be fixed somehow, some way, or it needs to be communicated better to the hardcore community because the hardcore community is the ones that's spreading the word of mouth about the Xbox. People act like the casuals, they go out there and buy it, but guess what? The person that works at the store that's selling the Xbox, if he's a hardcore Xbox guy or he's a hardcore PlayStation guy, he's the one that's going to really push your console on the market. And if you constantly give yourself a negative image or you constantly make feel people like they can't trust the direction that you're going, no one is going to wind up picking up your console regardless of what you put out. Now, again, this is all speculation based on, I don't know what Microsoft is going to have at E3. We don't know if they got new studios. We don't know if they got new games. They could announce 2 new studios next week for all we know. But in this current time and moment, in my opinion, it's not a good look. Regardless of whatever IPs they have coming, losing 2 first-party studios when you don't have a lot of first-party studios to begin with is not a good look. And if they're going to replace them, they need to replace them with something good and something big. Let's get into this. Anchor, tell me what's your thoughts on today's news.
Good riddance. I know it's terrible. I know it's terrible that people lost their jobs, and I'm sure they'll find other jobs that will support them. But honestly, good riddance to Lionhead. You're only as good as the last game you release, and the last game they released was Fable Anniversary, which did not sell very well. And it was also a remaster. And just honestly, they announced this game in 2013, meaning they've at least worked on the game for, let's say, at least a year, to show the visuals that they've shown and conceptually and all that kind of stuff. And I can't understand in what world they thought they would keep getting funding for a free-to-play game that's been in beta for almost a year. And with the beta, the way that beta was handled was so poor. Like little times, like, okay, yeah, you can start signing up now, and like you didn't get in until 6 months later, and then they say, oh well, yeah, you can play, but only at 4:30 in the morning. That's like, what? Like this doesn't even make sense to anybody for gamer wise. It just doesn't. And I'm glad that that sinkhole is gone because I believe that was probably one of the major reasons why they got rid of it. Because not just Lionhead, but also Fable Legends was because we kept waiting and waiting and waiting. It was a carrot dangling in front of everybody else that no one particularly wanted. Everybody wanted Fable 4. They
Right.
didn't care about Fable Legends, but they kept on persisting and saying it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, and the carrot's rotten. The carrot's
Mm.
gone, and
Mm.
just it needed to go away.
Go
So
ahead,
that's all I gotta say about it.
B.
In regards to Lionhead, I really wasn't a huge fan of Fable. I thought they could always take the game in a different direction to kind of get more fans behind it. And like Anchor said, I mean, the way they handled the beta was a little bit ridiculous. I thought, they should have actually just went for an MMO instead of like the 4 versus 1. I think that is actually an easy way to kind of kill your game off.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it with other games where they try to do that, and the game usually lasts a couple weeks, and it's the hype for it is kind of gone. So I thought they should have took the game in a different direction. I think Microsoft actually closing down the studio is a bit of a shock though. Usually, you'll see a studio cancel a project, they get moved on to something else, or maybe they rename, the studio to maybe work on different projects or something like that. But to kind of close down the studio is a bit of a shock. And then with Press Play, I mean, like you said, they released some pretty good, quality games. Even though they were small titles, they still were pretty good. A lot of people supported Max. And then Columba, was a great, couch co-op game.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Project Knoxville, like you said, the fans were really behind it. That's something that we voted for. So and we know Press Play, delivers quality. So I don't understand why they kind of got rid of them either. Um,
What I don't get is that you turn around and you keep these studios like LXP.
Yeah, like I was just gonna say, like last year and the year before, they kind of announced that they brought on all these smaller studios, and we haven't seen anything from them, like you said, which is kind of disturbing. We get all excited when they announce, so Microsoft signed on this new developer, and we wait 2 or 3 years, and we still haven't seen anything from them. That's a little bit disappointing.
It's beyond disappointing. I said this before. Um, when I was speaking about them getting, I'm getting feedback from somebody. I'm not sure who it is though. Just give you a heads up. um, so what I was talking about was that Microsoft, when it came to first-party studios, and how important it was because of the simple fact that they are trying to go in this direction with Windows 10 and how the ecosystem is so important. Putting IPs and exclusives on both the Xbox One and the Windows 10 is how they're going to grow their brand from here on out in the future. The problem with that is that you need the studios to continuously produce those first-party games, so that way you can constantly have people invested in moving to Windows 10 to play your games. Because, like I said before, even if they put games from third parties on Windows, I see no reason why a person from Steam would switch to Windows. I just don't. I don't see it. You know what I'm saying? I don't see why. If I'm a PC gamer, if I'm playing on Steam, and I said this before, people didn't get what I was saying last time. If I'm a Steam player, I'm a PC player. I don't play on Xbox. I play on Steam. You're trying to convince me to come to Windows 10. Windows 10 has certain restrictions behind it, right?
Right.
People have all griped about it. Why in the world would I play, let's say, for example, let's say Deus Ex. Why in the world would I play Deus Ex under the Windows 10 platform when I could play it right under Steam the whole time? The reason why Windows 10 is attractive is because Microsoft has to produce exclusives you can't play anywhere else. Forza, Gears, Halo, you know, Fable would have been a part of that equation. Killer Instinct is a part of that equation. Any of the smaller games that they may have is a part of that equation. Like you also have Scalebound, Quantum Break, which is releasing. Gears Ultimate Edition just released, which they patched. I heard was a big improvement. Record is coming out. Those type of games are not being played anywhere else except behind the Windows 10 platform wall. So the Xbox is considered a device, and PCs are considered a device. But if you don't have the studios to pump those things out, what happens? What are you doing? Like, who is making these games? Because you look at the other studios that they had, they were all small studios. You know what I'm saying? You really only have, and here's the biggest issue. And I said this before, and people hate me. Some of the Halo guys, some of the Gears guys hate me for saying this, but it's the truth. It is the absolute truth. No matter how you try to flip it, change it, put it any type of way you want, you have two studios with big, like what's the word I'm looking for? You have two studios with like big, I guess you could say, big employee backgrounds within the company. You know, big staff. They have big staffs, and these two developers only pump out one franchise. Matter of fact, you might as well say three, because I'm going to go ahead and include Turn 10 into that equation. You have three studios, and these three studios pump out one franchise. Now, albeit these three individual franchises are like nothing on the planet. I mean, they move units. Even Halo 5, for some people feeling it's the worst, still sold like 3.5 million copies. That's a lot of copies for one game. I don't know any exclusives that sold that much this generation, you know, overall. So 3.5 million copies is a lot of copies for Halo. But at the same time, nowhere near in comparison to what it would usually sell back in the day on 360 and the original Xbox. But the next thing they're making is Halo Wars 2. Prior to that, they had Master Chief Collection. I even seen Frank O'Connor talking about he would like to see a Halo that was explorative like Tomb Raider. I'm like, why don't you just make a new game? Just make a new game. It doesn't have to be in the Halo universe. Like, that's what I don't understand. You have the technology, you have the like the design, everything is there. You have the talent. We know 343 is a talented studio. Some of the guys who were originally at Bungie worked for 343. Now, you mean to tell me Bonnie Ross just sat there and said that they had a vision and they could do all types of things with Halo over the next 30 years? For the next 30 years, this is all this studio is going to do is Halo? That's crazy to me. That is a waste of resources. It is.
I've been saying this for years, man.
And it's going to get oversaturated with Halos. I love Halo. I love the franchise. I play Halo 5 almost religiously, multiplayer-wise. I really do. And I enjoy the campaigns. Me and my homie been playing Halo, each Halo co-op since the first Halo on every system. But they just stuck playing this game. And you turn around, you change Black Tusk after pumping out this idea that they were going to come out with this new big franchise, and it was the next big franchise on the level of like a Halo or whatever. And you show off kind of like this tech demo of the engine and then working with Unreal 4, and you scrap that, and now they're doing Gears of War 4. And I'm excited for Gears of War 4. I think Gears of War 4 looks amazing. It looks beautiful. But at the same time, you have them doing Gears. They literally changed their name and their logo to like a gear, like a spinning chainsaw. They're only going to be doing Gears. That is it from now on. That's pretty much it. Why? It's like, I don't understand why. Now, it's one thing for Turn 10, because Turn 10, they do cars. It's not much else you can do in the genre when your whole entire company or development team is based in the world of racing. So it's not much you can do. And my hat goes off to them for working with the other studio. What's the other Playground Games on making Forza Horizon series. I think Forza Horizon series to me is, and I know some people might get on me for that, I think the Forza Horizon series is a better series than Forza. I just do.
It has become over the past couple of years. I
yeah, that. It is a really good franchise. I really love the Forza Horizon franchise, and if they come out with 3 this year, I look forward to picking it up, because I'm not a person that goes out and buys Forza. I don't buy Forza. I buy the Horizon series. But then again, look, they have iterations of the same franchise. This is what I'm talking about. You have 3 major companies, and they constantly do the same games. Now you just eliminated Fable, who actually the Fable franchise, Fable company, Lionhead, who actually was talking about, and it was rumored to have a new IP in the works after they finished up with Fable Legends. Now that's gone. So you eliminate the only RPG studio you have. You're outsourcing the third party. You're moving all exclusives to Windows 10. And there's constant talk about, all these rumors and all this talk from the fanboys on the opposite side of the aisles and all of the people out there in the media that just hate the Xbox, and if they want to be biased with their biased content, we know who you are. We see it. People want to act like it's not real, but we know it's real. It's the truth. It is. It's not real because it's not affecting you and your console. But if you're on the Xbox side, you see these things. Like literally last week, I posted an article about how someone said Uncharted 4 is going to be the end of Xbox. One game would be the end of
Forbes,
Xbox.
though, man. What do Forbes know about games?
That's what I'm saying. I just don't even understand that concept. So my whole thing is that who are you getting to replace these studios?
I want to make a point here because just to jump in, it's always tough when they're whenever there's any negative press or any negative news. It can it comes with a lot of speculation, and we don't know the full background on why Press Play and Fable Lionhead were closed.
Agreed.
I mean, you guys in the beta for Fable Legends at all? Any of you guys?
I played it. Yeah, I was in the beta.
I mean, we can't talk about it that much because of the NDA and stuff, and we don't want
talk about
we
it.
don't want Mike's.
It no longer exists. We could talk about the game right now.
Yeah, what do we care?
We don't care.
We don't care.
If any Microsoft lawyers listen to this, these guys talking about the beta, not me.
Look, my game is done. Let me tell you about Fable Legends. I played Fable Legends. Fable Legends was a beautiful game. It looked incredible. But overall, the game was going to get boring. I played it like 4 or 5 times, and I stopped playing it, and I didn't go back to it. And I tried to get back into it, but the wait times were too long, and I just felt boring. And then you move too slow. Like the jogging trot was like annoying as hell. You just didn't move fast enough, and I wasn't impressed with any of the abilities. I just thought like if I'm supposed to be this powerful adventurer, I felt like my moves and my attacks just wasn't all that special.
Well, definitely,
powerful.
I'm basing this based on the Gamescom preview because I played it at Gamescom and I wrote an article for it.
Yeah.
And I think the theme is unrealized potential. I mean, you could sort of feel that there's something there, and like you say, it is gorgeous. Like the 3D foliage is just like, it's so much better than when you're crawling through like the grass in a game that just has like 2D plants and they just look like pixelized GIFs coming onto your face and stuff. Fable Legends is an absolutely beautiful game, but it had flaws. But months ago, it felt like, yeah, this is beta or this is a preview code. They'll fix it up and it'll get better over time. But it doesn't seem to have achieved what Microsoft set out for it. And like you said earlier, it looks like it just turned into a big money sink for them.
I think that's exactly what it was. It was just a pit.
And beyond, I mean, there's been some pictures being passed around of Microsoft taking a bunch of other studios off the Microsoft Studios website. Some of those studios probably shouldn't have even been there because they were only set up to make HoloLens demo apps, really.
Mm-hmm.
We played some of them. Well, the guys at Windows Central have played around with some of them, and they were only really there to make a few experiences for HoloLens. And now that HoloLens is going out to developers at the end of this month,
right.
I don't know if you saw this, but
Yeah.
HoloLens is going out to developers at the end of this month. There's less need for in-house studios to be working on those experiences. They've given it to developers now, and they're going to say to these developers, "You make cool experiences for HoloLens, so we don't have to." So some of those guys will be put on to other projects.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the guys at Lionhead will probably be put onto other projects like designers and stuff like that. Some of them might even go up to Rare to work on Sea of Thieves.
Right.
There's other UK studios that can work on, and Rare's not going anywhere. You know, the value of their IP is crazy, and but you, I'm going to play devil's advocate here because you know everyone always gets into a massive hysteria when there's ever any negative Microsoft news, and I try and see the best in it as much as I can, which makes people think that I'm a massive fanboy sometimes.
Well, you know what it is, Jez. This is the problem. This is the problem with Microsoft. The problem is that you want as many games and new IPs as fresh games coming out
No,
of your different studios.
I disagree. I disagree
How do you
because
disagree with that?
I think it'd be better to have less 9 out of 10s than it would a whole library of 7 out of 10s.
But here's the thing, though. They haven't produced any 7 out of 10s. They haven't produced any 9 out of 10s. But the point is that if you have more 8s out of 10s, more people would be satisfied. You would have a ton of diversity. That's just
Okay,
with it.
less 8 out of 10s and more 9 out of 10s. Then they're not just gonna. They're not doing this as a cost-cutting measure.
I
don't
think
they
so. I think so.
You think so? I don't think they're doing it as a cost-cutting measure. I don't. I think they're reallocating resources because you've got to look at examples like Cuphead, for example. Cuphead was originally not supposed to be fully Microsoft exclusive, but now it is because they're receiving funds from Microsoft, and they're receiving funds from Microsoft to turn it from a boss rush game into a full-blown side-scrolling shooter with levels, and that's because of Microsoft's money.
Right.
And Cuphead could go from a 7 out of 10. I mean, Cuphead's a great game. It looks great in trailers.
I played it at E3.
You played it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is just bosses right now. And all the previews that everyone's played,
it was boss battles. Yeah.
That could get repetitive, and that could lead it to being a 7 out of 10 game. But now that they're going to have full-blown side-scrolling platforming levels in it with shooting and whatever, that could take from being an 8 to a 9. And that's a reallocation of resources, that is. Now, I mean, again, it's speculation for you to say that they are doing a cost-cutting measure, and it's speculation for me to say on the on the glass is half full side of things that maybe they're just reallocating resources to turn Scalebound from an 8 out of 10 into a 9 out of 10. But it's like you said earlier as well, relying on second parties is risky, and we've seen that from stuff like Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon, and so I do think there is a method to the madness here. And I know we've had a lot of negative news at the minute, but it's better for them to get it all out now in one sort of lump as they move towards build and then towards E3, when there's just going to be nothing but positivity after build. There's going to be nothing but positives. We don't know what the situation is with Steam and that Xbox subdomain that's been passed around. We don't know what their full plans are for UWP and the Windows platform. We don't know their full plans for gaming on PC, and a lot of these things haven't been realized because UWP is really complex. It's a really complex proposition, and you've got to appreciate the fact that UWP has only been out in the wild since last summer. It's not a mature ecosystem that has all the features it needs to compete with Steam, if they even want to compete with Steam, which they may well come around. They may well turn around at build and say, we're going to let people upload Xbox integrated UWAs onto the Steam store. You don't know these things, and I think it's counterproductive for us as fans, as analysts, to not let these things run its course, especially when we've got Build and E3 coming up, where they are going to elaborate more on these plans. That's just how I feel about it. I could be totally naive, and people call me fanboy, but I do think we need more information before we can jump to those conclusions.
Yeah, just I think you make a great point. They could just be reallocating the resources to kind of clean up some of the games that they have going on right now before they make any other major announcements. They do have some big titles coming up that were looking kind of shaky as far as the frame rate and stuff with Scalebound, and to try to turn Cuphead into an actual game. Instead of just boss battles. So that's a pretty good point. But as a fan looking on the outside, it does kind of look like they're just trying to cut costs. It looks like they kind of invested in something that they thought was going to be promising, and maybe They just got to the point where they figured it's not going to work.
I agree. It would be nice to get some. I mean, we've known for. I mean, people have said. I've seen people on Twitter say we've got good news. We've got Quantum Break, but we've known Quantum Break's going to be amazing for ages. It would, it would be nice to get a little bit of positive news like now. But build's coming up on March 30th, so we won't have to be waiting too long.
Build's coming up. We got GDC, and then E3's, right around the corner, only a couple of months away. So they definitely have time to kind of right the ship and get fans back on their side, kind of recover from the backlash that they've had the past couple of weeks. So, we'll see what they announce. Like you said, the Steam Xbox domain is pretty interesting. So, we got to see what happens there. And then, like I've been saying the past couple of months, I think Microsoft is kind of playing it close to the chest. I think they definitely have some second party, third party partnerships that they may be working on. Because with the closure of more studios, they may be outsourcing some of the games. I mean, some of the biggest franchises that they announce lately have their IPs that they own, but it's not something that's been worked on directly with the Microsoft studio. So, they may be, following that route, and maybe that'll take them to the promised land.
Yeah, I think Microsoft, it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot to be a hardcore fan because you know what? The casuals don't know anything about this.
Yeah, they're not paying attention to
this. They don't know it. See, like it's not a big deal in the overall spectrum of things. As a casual person, when you go out and you pick up the Xbox, knowing that Lionhead got shut down and Fable Legends no longer exists is not a big deal. But to those of us who are invested in the console, follow the news, follow what's happening with the company, talk about it as podcasters or report it as media, we have an invested concern in it. And our invested concern is because we support the brand. We want to see positivity and growth from the brand because we know that we really like it. We would hate to see it leave the market. And it's just something about it that it appeals to us over any other brand. So anything you like or anything that appeals to you that you see changing, you're going to have some type of feeling towards that or some type of response towards that. And I think a lot of the community is feeling some type of way. I mean, it all started, we all felt like, oh my God, Microsoft is doing a great job turning everything around. The Xbox is being updated, monthly. We're getting new features. Everything is great. Now the games are starting to come out. Sunset Overdrive was really good. Forza was good. Halo was good. Tomb Raider pickup was Tomb Raider is actually a really great game. I don't know if people didn't play it for whatever their reasons were, but Tomb Raider was a really great game. They've had a great holiday back to back to back. Even at launch, I thought Rise was a solid game. Dead Rising 3 was a really good game. You had Forza 5 at the time that was solid. You had the smaller games later on the next year with like Max Curse of Brotherhood. They had a few early titles, small titles that they had launched and that's still on the console today. But overall, they've had good holiday seasons. But then you start to see this trend start to happen very slowly. First everything was one ecosystem, and that was great. Everybody was into it. Then it started to move into, okay, we're going to put this game on shared. Certain games will be shared between Windows 10 and Xbox, and then we start to move to all games are starting to go to Windows 10 and Xbox. Now they're restructuring studios. It's not a good look. Image-wise, the problem Microsoft has right now is they have an image problem, and people
always had that problem.
They've always had that problem in certain aspects. But when what is the dude's name who runs EA?
Peter Moore.
When Peter Moore ran the 360, that console could do no wrong. When he ran the 360, they had so many amazing games from BioShock to Mass Effect, Halo 2. There was just so many games during the Peter Moore era. It was amazing. And if you look at what Peter Moore has done with EA, he's done a fantastic job with EA. I don't care what nobody says about it. I don't care what nobody says about EA. You can say they're money grubbers. You can say all these bad things. EA Access has been a fantastic idea. Absolutely fantastic. They've snatched up BioWare, which was a great move. because they have the Mass Effect franchise. EA has the Star Wars franchise under their belt. They got Mirror's Edge under their belt. They got the Battlefield franchise under their belt. They have so many franchises right now, not to mention Madden as well, which is the only football game that's on the market. You have one of the top football games worldwide and FIFA. They just have a lot of franchises, and though we choose to ignore EA and look at them as another money grubbing company, they're the number one company in the world as far as third party is concerned, even over Activision and Ubisoft. They just are. They know what they're doing, and it's crazy. Ever since then, once you got Don Matrick, it went from all about games to all about casuals and Connect. And, you know, it transitioned. It just wasn't a good transition. Red Ring of Death didn't help. You know, they were throwing money at it. Don Matrick was aggressive. He started snatching up third-party deals, the third-party exclusivity, and things like that to sustain the Xbox. They weren't coming out with a lot of new IPs, but they had a lot of sequels and were coming out with, you know, kind of like rehashes, not rehashes, but like offshoots in between, like Reach and ODST, and there was just little things. You had Horizon. That's when they first came out. There was a lot of little things here and there and stuff in between that time. Then you go to the Xbox One, and he went full blown casual, and it just didn't work. It didn't work because early on, the people that's buying your console is us. It's the hardcore gamers that's going out to buy your console at launch. It's not until your console hits $299, $249 that the casuals step in and start picking these joints up for their kids and themselves. So then in that regard, Phil stepped in and started to make changes. And like I'm just going through this history just to kind of reflect on how these things are being made and how these things are being changed. And you just see the transition of money stoppage. The money started to stop. It stopped when Matrick put out whatever he put out on the 360 era, and it didn't sustain the Xbox. They gave him $1 billion to make games. He ran through the $1 billion. The last couple of games coming off that $1 billion is going to be Record and Scalebound. That is the end of the Don Matrick era. You know, these deals with the Division, the exclusivity deal, the Tomb Raider deal, all these deals was under Don Matrick. These deals were, because you didn't think these games were in development way before Phil Spencer took office. It takes years for these games to come out. Now, this E3, next year, and the year after, this is Phil's era. But in the Phil era, though he's made the change compared to what Don did and made the Xbox console relevant as a console, Satya Nadella comes in and is now a mobile-first, cloud-first company.
Services. All about services.
It's all about services. They're changing the brand. If you look at what they're doing, it's not about PlayStation and Nintendo. So all the PlayStation fans and Nintendo fans out there, throw that out the window. It's not about that no more. They're looking at what Apple is doing and why Apple is like the number one company in the world when it comes to devices and cloud sharing and things like that.
Apple doesn't touch Microsoft for cloud sharing. I'm
talking about as far as devices is concerned. If you have an iPad, whatever you had on your iPad also works on your iPhone. Whatever works on your iPhone also works on your Mac. So in that regard, Microsoft is trying to step into that lane as well by unifying Windows 10. And a lot of people got upset when he talked about having a console that upgrades, you know. But what he's trying to say is if you look at it, if you have an Xbox One and they come out with an Xbox One Ultra 4 years later and it has better specs than the Xbox One, there are people who will trade in their console for that next Xbox. However, it doesn't mean that the games that come out on the Xbox Ultra won't work on the Xbox One. They will, and the games scale. They're scalable games. If you listen to the interview I had with Joe Brammer about Battalion 1944, he talked about that, about how games scale. And that was important to hear that from a developer, knowing that Phil Spencer had just spoke about that when it came to upgradable hardware. So they're looking at it from the perspective of you can have an iPhone 4, or you can have an iPhone 5, or you can have an iPhone 6. But guess what? All those apps and all those things still work on all those devices. And as time goes on, yes, the older things, you get rid of them because the base stuff doesn't work anymore as you move into new technology. But that's with any device over a certain amount of time.
I think you're right to a degree. I agree with you to a degree. But the thing is, with UWP, like you just laid out, is that it's so complicated.
Yeah.
It's so complex. I mean, they are going. I mean, you said that they're trying to emulate Apple, where the experience roams across devices, but that's not exactly fully true. I mean, for example, Snapchat doesn't work on OS X on your MacBook.
Okay.
So, but Microsoft are doing something unprecedented by trying to make it so an app like Snapchat could work across your phone and your PC and your Xbox even. And it's not just that, but HoloLens as well. Basically, any device or any paradigm and any future paradigm, like you say with the Xbox Ultra, that those apps and services and games and whatever will work across anything that has the correct inputs and the correct hardware. And it is really complex. And I do think one of the problems we're seeing right now with the Xbox One, and with all the uncertainty and the mixed messaging and the general weirdness that hardcore fans are experiencing, and is part of the fact that Xbox One is being swept up in this unprecedentedly complex project under UWP.
Right.
But I really like when Brandon described it as the promised land, because I really believe that's where we're headed. There isn't going to be a Windows 11. There's not going to be a Windows 12. It's all Windows 10 now.
Right.
And developers can have that reassurance that an app they make today for Windows 10 will work on every device that Microsoft releases in the future, providing it has that sort of hardware to support it.
Right.
And I think it's telling that on Major Nelson's podcast recently, Phil Spencer referred to the fact that Win32 apps, the old school Win32 apps, will run on a Windows 10 device today. That's like the ultimate backwards compatibility. Like, I downloaded a game that I played when I was a kid, like in the early 90s, called DX Ball the other day. And it's like Pong, and there's like a little ball, and it bounces up and blows up these blocks. And I got that game in like 1995 or something on shareware on the front of a PC magazine.
Okay.
And that game works on my Windows 10 Surface,
Right.
And it's like a million years old. So basically, the assurance is that the assurance that Microsoft have given with regards to upgradable hardware is that any digital game, because you got to presume that Blu-ray will eventually get phased out, but any digital game that you buy on Xbox One right now will work on Xbox 2 and Xbox 3,
right,
and upgraded stuff. And I think Phil Spencer was misquoted slightly when he was talking about upgradable Xbox Ones, because he said technical innovations with regards to Xbox One, which isn't necessarily referring to a bigger GPU. That's a technical iteration, I would describe that as. A technical innovation is stuff like Oculus Rift. So I think a new Xbox Slim might be more powerful to support Oculus Rift, but not necessarily deliver Battlefield 4 in high resolution, for example. I think Battlefield 4 is always going to be 720p on Xbox One, because that's how the file
engine.
was.
Yeah, that's how the engine works. Yeah, it
that's how
doesn't
the
work well
file.
on Xbox.
That's how the file was uploaded to the Xbox One system. So even on a more powerful Xbox One, I think unless EA go back and make it scalable, because the games have to be made to be scalable. To be scalable.
Right.
So even though these games will be backwards compatible, it's not or forwards compatible or whatever,
Right.
It's getting confusing, but it's not necessarily a case of a new powerful box, a box with all these extra parts is going to make your old games more powerful. It's not going to do that. But a new box might be able to support HoloLens or Oculus Rift inputs, or HTC Vive and stuff like that.
That's why I was saying I was excited about it, because the whole thing that Phil was talking about, and why I felt like this right here is what makes the console appeal to the average consumer over any other console, is because of the simple fact that I can buy a piece of hardware from Xbox, and it could be an Xbox One or an Xbox Slim, or let's just say Xbox version 2, and it would have upgradable hardware, and the games would scale. It didn't matter if I had the original Xbox One or the next Xbox One, and I bought, let's say Battlefield 5, and on Battlefield 5 it may be 720p, 60 frames per second, on the original Xbox One, but on the second version it's 1080p because of whatever they put in it, and the game scales. It's not like they have to make multiple games for multiple devices. That's the great thing about the UWP. That's the one thing people don't understand, they didn't get.
Exactly.
But at the same time, you got to have studios to to convince people that it's worth getting Windows 10 and it's worth picking up an Xbox One if you're a casual gamer, because like I said, even if they move some people from Lionhead, and even if they move some people from Press Play, let's say they move half the staff from Lionhead into Rare, and they move half the staff from Press Play into I wouldn't even know. Be honest with you, I can't even think of any. Yeah, Lift London. Let's say Lift London. Okay, so they moved those guys over there, right? If Rare comes out with a game, Rare would have to drop at least 2 or 3 games every year, and each one of them would have to be different in order to sustain itself in a way of having another studio. You have to have these studios. Like, I wouldn't be mad if Microsoft just had 343, The Coalition, Lift London, Turn 10, and Rare, right? As long as each one of those studios dropped a different game every time, I wouldn't be mad at that. But 3 of those studios work on the same franchise, which leaves you Rare, Lift London, and maybe a couple smaller studios, Grounding Inc. or whatever else they have, in their back pocket, second party, third party, second party, first party, or whatever, to work on these smaller IPs. A company like Remedy would be a great pickup. Now, people are saying, well, maybe they got rid of Press Play and they got rid of Lionhead to pick up Remedy. Remedy has to want to be bought. People don't understand. A company just can't go out and buy a development studio. That's not how it works. People always say, oh, Microsoft should have bought Sega. Microsoft should have bought Capcom. Microsoft should buy Remedy. You have to want to be bought, or something has to want to be sold in order for it to be bought. And Remedy is in a great space right now where they don't have to be bought. They just don't. They don't need to be bought. So it's not going to be Remedy. Now, if Microsoft hits us at E3 and they're like, here's our new studio, we're our new game, yada, 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 and it's the dopest game we've seen in a very, very long time, then all of us would be super excited. Of course, we would be ecstatic, and we would forget all about Lionhead. But I think the reason why people are so offended is because Lionhead has been with Xbox since day one.
Yeah, yep. Before it was Forza, before Gears, it was always Halo.
It was yeah, yep.
Those were 2 staples of the Xbox platform. And,
I think it's kind
of sad to see Fable go.
It is, yeah. It's like you say, it is really sad to see Fable go, because I've wrote an article recently that I'm slightly regretting now. Called I had this idea that Microsoft were trying to build up their video game brands so they could eventually one day get on the level of Minecraft and Halo and the Nintendo franchises out there, because Nintendo's franchises are so powerful that they can sustain themselves through several generations of dud consoles, because people love those games. They've had decades of build-up, and they are, unstoppable. Nintendo are unstoppable. They could release 2 or 3 more dud consoles like the Wii U, and still survive, because their brands are they're Disney, man. They are unstoppable.
We all grew up,
and they've got exactly. And I had this theory that Microsoft wanted to build up the Halo. They bought Minecraft, and they want to build up Halo and Forza, and I presumed at the time they wanted to build up Fable as well, to be one of these big staple brands that people can love for years and years to come, because in the future, in the long future, in 20 years maybe, Microsoft always plays the long game. They always think about the long-term future. In the long-term future, there isn't going to be an Xbox. There's just going to be an internet connection plugged into a screen. When everything comes down your 1 gigabyte fiber line, or from a satellite beamed into your brain or whatever. The only thing that's going to matter is, like you said, the only thing that's going to matter is getting people onto the Windows 10 store, and the only the way they do that is through exclusives. Now, but the whole exclusives argument is antithetical to what Microsoft have been doing over the last 2 years, the wider Microsoft, like they've been putting Office onto iPad, which Steve Ballmer swore would never happen.
Yeah.
You know, and they've been they even released a SQL Server for Linux today, which, you know, is like the end times, the apocalypse. Microsoft supporting Linux is the end times. So, and we've got this Xbox Steam subdomain now, which is, it used to be used as an FAQ for Left 4 Dead 2 on the 360. Apparently, I read that somewhere.
Right.
But it is being updated, which is really interesting, especially in the run to the build, and especially since Phil Spencer showed off Steam at last year's event, the HoloLens event.
Yeah.
So it could be that they're going to package Xbox branded UWAs and put them on Steam, and which would kill the whole argument of exclusives on the Windows 10 store to get people onto the store.
Yep.
So it's kind of like some of these things don't seem to correlate, and ditching Fable Legends in such a late state of development is, I mean, you could say it's reckless, but it's, given the state of Fable Legends and how it wasn't progressing and how it was being a money pit, it does seem a little bit reckless. But I mean, does that mean the IP is dead? Are they going to do something with it in the future? Because everyone wanted Fable 4, man. Like
they said Fable Legends. They said that they are shutting down Lionhead Studios, and Fable Legends was like at its sunset. Well, sunset sound like it's ending. It ain't dawn. Dawn is in the morning. Sunset is in the evening. Like, it's about to be over. So Fable Legends sound like it's over. The Fable IP obviously still exists within the Microsoft portfolio. You could always move that franchise to somebody else. But the only people that understand Fable the way Fable is the people who worked on Fable for the last 3 generations. So my thing is,
like, who do you move that
game to? That's what I'm saying. Like, the next game we get will not be any type of Fable we know. It will be different. It could be better. It could be 100 times better than any Fable we've ever played. And I would love that. I would love for Casey Hudson to work on a Fable game and write a Fable story. I would buy that game. But who do you get to design the game? That's the question. You know, Press Play, on the other hand, they were a smaller studio, and I feel so bad for Press Play because, one, they've already had a game with Max and a magic marker. Then you come to Microsoft, you make 2 games, and your studio is completely gone. Gone? That doesn't even make sense to me.
As well, man.
Yeah, they just opened up a new office. I just don't understand that concept. You know, when you have other studios out there no one's heard of, no one knows what they're doing, and we never see any of their products on Xbox. So I'm not comprehending that. But I tell you this, guys. You know, everybody's worried about the Xbox and about the Xbox brand and the Xbox console. You don't have to worry about that because Microsoft is not getting rid of Xbox consoles. Live is like a bloodline for Microsoft. Okay, you do how many people have Xbox Live? Microsoft, I think 45 million. Or close
48 million, I think.
48 million. You multiply 48 million times $60 a year, and I know everybody doesn't buy it for $60 a year, but on average, it's $59.99 for an Xbox Live card. You multiply that number and see when you hit the billions. That is billions of dollars. And you telling me Microsoft says, you know what, we're just going to go full PC. We're going to eliminate the 20 million people who have bought the Xbox console. We're just going to get rid of the $2.3 billion we make off of Xbox Live yearly, and we're just going to make Live for free and just move all our games to PC. That's ridiculous. They're not going to do that. So people who think the Xbox brand is going to die, it's not going to die. The Xbox console will exist. It will. It just will be redefined. It won't be the console we're used to. Things change. Everything evolves over time. The Xbox One and the next Xbox will be some type of device that scales games, will get different hardware mid-generation, because I think doing every 2 years or 3 years is idiotic. No one has, I mean, don't get me wrong, people do it for phones all the time. I think the people who do it for phones are bad anyway. They're just nuts, spending $600 on a phone every 2 years or so. Insane.
I would never do that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right. But to then turn around and make it a console and do it every 2 or 3 years, I don't think console consumers, they're not doing that. But if you give me a new console every 4 or 5 years and it's updated and new games come out for it, and those new games can still work on the Xbox One, but they look amazing and run better on the new Xbox, and that's great. That works. That's scalable. I don't mind that. I will do that.
But do you really think the consumer would adapt to that? Buying a new
Yes.
console every 4 years?
I,
Another $400 every 4 years?
I don't
Like,
think it'd be 500. I think. Listen, this is what happens when you think about this. You eliminate a lot of things. You eliminate a lot of things when you have a console that's continuous. Like you have a operating system. Like we don't have to worry about getting a new OS. We don't have to wait for party chat. We don't have to wait for all the apps. We don't have to wait for half the games. We don't have to wait for backwards compatibility. All that stuff is there. All you're doing is plug it in, signing in, downloading whatever, and you're back up and you're good to go. That's the key factor in all of those things.
yeah, but you still have to look at the investment and the parts that go into that new console. So every time you update the GPU, like GPUs are expensive.
Right, but I don't think. But Microsoft, I mean, look, console companies have never updated their hardware with the top of the line GPUs anyway. You know what I'm saying? If listen to this, if I get an Xbox One and they come out, let's say next year they come out with a new console, if I'm able to trade my Xbox One in and get 150, because you know GameStop they're gonna do some type of deal. They always do. Let's say they take my Xbox One for $100. That's fine. That's $100 off the new console that I would spend $300 for compared to going out to buy a $500 console. And remember, the Xbox One was only $500 because they put the Kinect in it. Don't put no peripherals in it. Don't put no stupid ass HoloLens glasses. Don't put no Kinect in there.
I want HoloLens glasses.
No, just leave the Xbox alone. Put a controller in there, and these companies need to start giving away free games, like old school Nintendo. You know what I'm saying? Like this should be a free game with every system. I think that is a great incentive to give people when they buy these consoles to start and things like that. Super Mario, when you open up that Super Nintendo box, that big black box with Nintendo on the cover, and Mario was sitting on Yoshi, and you see that pretty grayish purple console, and you pop it open, and there's Super Mario World sitting there with that little plastic cup that holds the Super Nintendo cartridge in. I remember that day like it was yesterday. I think I was like 11 years old when I first got Super Nintendo. It was the greatest day of my life. I loved it. And Microsoft needs to do something in that regard. Like a Max Across the Brotherhood would be a great incentive to give away when you sell your consoles to start. I think they should do that. Everybody is so money grubbing and looking for pay me that no one just thanks the consumer anymore. You know, just here's a free game, man. Thank you for buying our console. And I think Microsoft should start doing that. And I think that people should not worry about the Xbox console because as a console, it's not going anywhere. They're redefining what a console is. And I guarantee you, if it works, Sony will follow suit. Nintendo will follow suit. They have no choice because they'll be left in the dust. They have no choice. They really don't. So
I don't know, man. It's going to be uncertain. There's going to be uncertainty between now and E3. And I think Phil Spencer's heard loud and clear that everyone in the community wants some real clarity, and they want to know what their plans are. They want to understand, but sometimes I feel like Microsoft themselves don't fully understand the complexity of what they've unleashed with UWP. Because it is so complex. It's a whole new paradigm, you know. It's Windows 95 all over again, you know. Before Windows 95, computers didn't even have 3.1. Computers didn't even have interfaces. You had to you type commands into a black screen, you know.
yeah, DOS. Yeah.
DOS, you know. And Windows 95 changed everything. It blew everyone's minds. It created probably hundreds, thousands of new markets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it changed the world. And I'm not saying UWP is going to change the world overnight, but it's like you can't browse the web now without seeing a responsive website that this is just a simple example, but for example, even in the Google Hangouts that we're using now, if you resize the window to the shape of a mobile phone, the website converts. You know, that's a responsive website.
Right.
And Microsoft's UWP apps do the same thing if you use them on
Yep.
Use
Yeah.
them on your computer, use them on your PC. It's the same code, and it's a godsend for developers because they only have to code the whole app once, add a media query that says if the user's using this type of screen, then look like this. And it's the same way. If the user's using a controller, then use these controls. If they're using a touchscreen, use these controls. And you can see it on Minecraft for Windows 10 edition. So
Yeah.
for a developer, it's a godsend, but it's going to take time to get to the promised land, the Xbox promised land,
Yeah.
which is
It's crazy.
Brandon's promised land.
It's a crazy situation for Microsoft. I want people to just put this in perspective, and this is the whole point of the show. Okay, this is the perspective of the show. You can sit up there and you can be upset and you can be worried about what Microsoft is doing with the Xbox brand. If you understand business, you understand that this was a business decision. We all know Fable Legends wasn't going anywhere. It's been delayed multiple times. The only difference between Fable Legends and The Last Guardian is that Microsoft finally made the decision to kill it. They didn't let it linger on for 8 years and keep our hopes up. So I think in the end, Microsoft killing Fable Legends was a smart thing to do. I don't understand why they canceled the studio. The only thing I can think of is that they looked at what they've done over the last years, and it just wasn't the money, the positive and profit ratio to negative and debt ratio didn't add up with the studio. It just did it. Fable 3 wasn't great. That Fable Legacy was the Fable Connect game, that stupid game, that didn't do nothing.
The arcade game didn't do nothing.
Yeah, and then you turn around, you had a couple games. I remember they had like State of Emergency. There was a couple games that was canceled, Project Dimitri. There was all these ideas that never came to fruition. I don't know why or what happened to those games, but it just seems Microsoft invests and they just haven't produced anything, and we keep just getting Fable, and Fable Legends was just a dead end, so they got cut. And it's unfortunate what happened to Lionhead, and it's disappointing because they're an RPG studio, and I hope Microsoft figures out a way to bring in another RPG studio. I would be very grateful if they did that, but they lost a studio, and that's my biggest issue. The fact they lost a studio and that they really can't afford to lose studios knowing the way their other studios work. Press Play, on the other hand, I don't understand why they got cut. They were a small studio. Their potential was just reaching. They did good with Max. Kalimba was well received and
Kalimba was great.
Yeah, Kalimba was well received, and it had a lot of high ratings. It was well rated. One of the better well-rated smaller games on the Xbox platform, and they were working on Knoxville, which seemed very ambitious, and a lot of people were into it. And just to cut them, it's almost like there was a 4-year-old kid near the steps, and you just pushed them. That's how I feel. Like they literally just tripped them down the stairs because they weren't expected to come, and they never reached their full potential, and now it's over. So I look at it from the perspective of a glass half empty, a glass half full. The glass half empty effect is that we lost 2 studios. Microsoft lost 2 studios. I'm saying we. I don't work for Microsoft. Hey, I don't. Let's just get this clear. I don't work for Microsoft. Tick Podcast does things for Xbox. They don't cut me no checks, okay? Because if I did, we would be a lot happier over here. We'd be a lot happier over here when we talk about Xbox. But at the same time, I like not being under the boot of Microsoft because it gives us the freedom to talk how we're talking right now and to call them out on things we don't agree with. Okay, so in the end, I think that what people have to understand is that Microsoft made a decision. Whatever the decision is, we hope it's for the positive of the Xbox brand. They are going in a direction with Windows 10, the UWP, upgradable hardware. All of that sounds great. The games they got coming out third party are big. These are things that we want, but now they have to rework on first party. They have to get first party back up. They have to work on it, and they have to make sure it's strong and things like that. So before we got out of here, any final thoughts, Anchor?
Anchor left.
Anchor left? Okay. B, any final thoughts?
No, I think I just hope to see that the other major companies go ahead and start working on different games. As far as the studios, if they're gonna start knocking off first party studios, then I would hope that they kind of let them spread their wings and show what else they can bring to gamers. Rare is kind of like the only one that will work on multiple projects. So hopefully, the Coalition and 343 and maybe even Turn 10 pumps out something a little different in the future.
Yeah. Jez, what are your thoughts?
Well, you know me. When it comes to Microsoft, I like to like naively hope for the best. Maybe. I think we need more information. We need to wait for Build, which is coming up, GDC, which is coming up,
Yeah.
E3, which is coming up, and every PR decision they make between now and E3 is all going to be geared towards the big build up to the big positive news they're going to announce at E3. So it's better that they announce this now than put it out around the time of E3, because all this stuff, it really sucks, Fable Legends, I enjoyed it. It had loads of potential, and the ultimate really sucks because people are losing their jobs. The press play guys are great, and I mean, most people will remember them for Brotherhood and Kalimba, but I remember them for Tentacles Enter the Mind on Windows Phone, which I think is the most intuitive touch-based game out there today, personally.
Right.
If you've got a Windows Phone, get Tentacles Enter the Mind by Press Play Games. It's bloody great. But I think first of all, we don't know the full reasons behind them closing those studios. It could be reallocating resources, like I think, or it could be that they are cost cutting because they're losing money. I highly doubt it's the latter, but yeah, it could be. We just don't know. It could even be things like the studios were wasting money on ridiculous things, or the studios were being poorly managed, and they're very far away from Phil Spencer and his core team, because Phil Spencer seems like a hands-on guy. So for Phil Spencer to have to go and keep tabs on what Press Play are doing and keep tabs on what Lionhead are doing, he has to fly all over the place, and it's hard to manage when the studios are so far away from Redmond in America. So we don't know the full reasons behind why those studios were closed down, and obviously it doesn't look good, and it sucks that people are getting fired. But we should try not to fill in the gaps in our knowledge with negativity and anxiety and worry, because there is going to be a method behind their madness. There is going to be a methodology here that they might not want to tell us the full-blown reasoning behind their methodology, because the game's media will try and spin it in a negative way, blah blah blah. Sometimes it's just better to stay quiet, and I think we need to just keep calm and think of England.
Think of England. What?
That's a brave saying,
Anyway, yeah. So look, man, I just want to finish up and say that I think Microsoft losing two studios obviously is not a good look. They've had a lot of negative things happen to them recently. The Tim Sweeney guy came out and tried to take a shot at UWP. Didn't even know what the hell he was talking about. And I was disappointed in that, because you are the head of Epic. And when you're the head of a studio, I would expect you to be a little bit more knowledgeable on certain things of that aspect. And that, when he first called them out and said that Windows 10 should die, everyone wrote it up. Everybody wrote it up. Everyone made it a big deal. But then as soon as he said, I kind of apologized. It was a half-assed apology, and it was like, I really don't know what the UWP does. You kind of look stupid. It was like one or two articles about it. No one batted an eye. So it just goes to show you that any negative press towards Microsoft is going to be spread quickly like fire. And it's really up to us, the podcasters out there, the Xbox and Windows media websites out there, to report the truth and report the right things, because if you don't, the other people out there that have no, alliance or any truthful, thoughtful feelings towards Microsoft, just want to make clickbait and just want to put nonsense content out there, will put out that negative content and will continue to damage the brand, even when it's not the truth. So I really feel like it's important that you have people like us and people like Windows Central, TICGN, ICXM. You have places like Gamer. You got G2G over there. There's a few other people I can't think off the top of my head. No disrespect to you guys out there, but you know who you are. And I think when they report this content and they're truthful about it, it makes a lot of sense. We don't, like Jess said, we don't know the extent to what happened with Fable Legends or the Fable Lionhead crew. We don't know what happened to Knoxville or Press Play. We just know that Microsoft is no longer going to be holding those companies. My heart goes out to all the employees who lost their jobs, and I hope they're able to swiftly find new places of work and continue their careers in the game industry, because that could be very difficult to do in such a saturated market. And I wouldn't be too panic about it. I was a little bit kind of like hysterical earlier because I'm like, it's an RPG studio. I want more RPGs, and Microsoft's not providing that for me. If I'm not getting my fix, where do I go? I'm trying to make a decision between Nintendo and PlayStation, but I'm going to get one of those consoles to get my fix eventually. But at the end of the day, it's disappointing to know that the game will not be developed by Lionhead, and if they do find a new studio, hopefully the studio does well. And it's disappointing to know that Knoxville will no longer will ever get the chance to see that game come to fruition. So again, I think that at the end of the day, Microsoft as a company did what they did as a business decision. The Xbox brand is not going anywhere. They are redefining what consoles are. And if you enjoy Microsoft games and you enjoy what Microsoft plans to do in the future, and you're waiting to see what they are doing, I wouldn't make any decisions on what I'm doing with my Xbox until the end of the year. Honestly.
Yeah, this is not the end of the story.
This is not the end of the story.
Man.
I wouldn't sit up there and say I'm trading my Xbox in because all the games are going to PC. I wouldn't do that. You're jumping way too early when there's so many events coming up and so many things to explain. I would take my time. I would listen to what's being said, watch what's being done, and take the positives and the negative. And then at the end of the year, I would weigh them and make my decision. But currently, I feel like Microsoft is on a more positive path than negative path. Honestly, they really, really are. They've been making some great strides and doing some great things overall. But losing two studios or getting rid of two studios is not a good look, and I hope that they're able to find some new studios very quickly, or the people at those studios are allocated within the company so we can put their talent to use in other places. So definitely thank everybody for coming on the show. We're going to take some fan questions now. Anchorman seems to have stepped away. I see him still in the group, but maybe he's not available. So we're going to sit up here. We're going to try to answer your questions as much as possible. I want to thank everybody for joining. We had a big turnout tonight. I'm very grateful for the fans in the community. You have no idea how grateful I am for you guys. So go ahead and start asking your questions. I'll read them out loud, and we will try to answer your thoughts. So, a lot of people are wondering where would Fable go within the Microsoft franchise? How would, who would pick the studio up, or would they outsource it? What would be a good company to pick up the Fable franchise and to continue it?
Insomniac.
They'd
need to get some British writers in. But they do very colourful games. I think it'd be a good fit for Insomniac. I actually mentioned that on my own podcast earlier. But I think Insomniac would be a pretty good fit. They tend to make wackier games. I think Fable fits that sort of paradigm a little bit. And also Insomniac have worked with Microsoft before, so they know the ins and outs. I think Insomniac would be a good fit.
Insomniac. B, what do you think?
To be honest, man, I really don't know who else could really work on it. Lionhead kind of put their stamp on it, and I think if you put it in the wrong hands, it can kind of turn people away. So I really can't say. I definitely have to think on that.
I think it would be dope if it went to Bethesda. If like I think of Skyrim. And I know Fable is not as hardcore as Skyrim, but if they could get some of the writers from the Fable team, and they could work with like the Fable engine to still have it as Fable, but put all of like the open worldness of Skyrim and all of the side missions, and make a real complex, deep story, and take things a little bit more seriously, but still have the little jokes here and there, and be able to marry this person. Like I think it would be a great marriage for Fable. It really would, especially with the engine that they have on Fable. Because it's not to say just because they got rid of Fable Legends doesn't mean they can't continue that engine and continue to make Fables off of that engine. Because the engine is a very nice engine and the games look really good. So let's see here. Starting to get some questions in. First question in is Courtney Spence says, so am I supposed to play Halo and Forza only? No, there's plenty of games out right now you can play. There's plenty of games coming out you can play. Currently, if you haven't played Sunset Overdrive, if you haven't played Forza Horizon, if you haven't played any of the smaller titles like Ori and the Blind Forest, Mass Curse Brotherhood. I don't have a list of games in front of me, but
State of Decay. State of
State of Decay
Decay.
is there's another one that you can play, which is a really cool game and franchise. There's a couple games out there that if you go to the studio, you should be able to check out. I really think Microsoft should figure out a way to organize their games by category. Like I think, like first party games and all the first party games pop up, stuff like that. But every year Microsoft has put out something good and put out more games in the last. There's a lot of games out there that you can play. If you haven't played them, you have to just give them a chance. I think Dead Rising was great. If you haven't played Rise is a great game to check out and get back into. There's a lot of games out there. I can't think off the top of my head, but there's definitely more. Then you got Quantum Break coming out next month. That's going to be a big franchise. That game needs to do good. That game needs to do really, really well. They put a lot of money into that game and invested a lot, and it really needs to do
I'm playing it
well.
right now, in fact.
Really?
Yeah, it's unlocked in the UK, so.
That's not even funny, bro. I'm like upset that you just mentioned that right now. Anyway, yeah. Let's see. Supersonic Station says, can we put Fable Legends gameplay videos? Can we put up Fable Legends gameplay videos since it's canceled? I want to Twitch it. I don't know if they want you to do that. I would
probably hold off on that.
Yeah, I would hold off on that. I don't think you're ready for that just yet, buddy. Let's see here. Every time I touch the screen, it shoots me all the way to the bottom of the thing. All right, let's see. How long? Okay, Pal Sid says, how long do you think they'll be able to update when the next big thing is 4K? I don't think anyone would be interested in anything below that. Well, the next console that they would upgrade would be a 4K upgrade, clearly. I mean, they're not going to sit up there and just upgrade to 1080p 60 frames per second when we're barely getting that now. I'm sure that if they did upgrade, they would upgrade to a system where you would be able to run 4K. Because, look, I recently just bought a Vizio TV, a 50-inch. It's my first 4K TV, and I got it for $599 and things like that. Now, my next one next year that I'm going to get, it's probably either going to be a Sony or a Samsung, that's what I'm really going to drop money on. But I wanted to get a 4K TV because I needed an extra TV.
Are you sure you don't take checks from Microsoft?
No, I don't. Oh God, if I took checks from Microsoft, we would have apps in the radio show by now. Trust me. If I was getting checks from Microsoft, we wouldn't.
I'm sitting there with the tiniest TV you can imagine. I want a 50-inch TV.
Walmart had a Vizio on sale for a 50-inch 4K Ultra HD for $599. So I picked it up because I just moved into a bigger house and I needed another TV because I wanted to move my plasma down to the living room. And it was a solid pickup, man. But the point is that if you can get a 4K TV for $599, I'm pretty sure that Microsoft can figure out what they need to figure out to get to that resolution. Gaming wise, I know it's different. Don't get me wrong. I'm not stupid. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that as you get closer to getting to those resolutions and those frames, technology goes down over time. So Microsoft will eventually make a console that is able to push out the specs that would be considered next generation because the price point for the money is what it's all about.
With 4K TVs are coming down in price really rapidly as well.
Yeah, yes, they have. Yep.
I think they may, that might be something that we see in the future, but I don't think we'll see that on the next console, to be honest.
4K? I absolutely think it will. I think it will. I
don't think so.
I think the next console will. Everybody's trying to look. First of all, half the PC gamers out there be lying. They be like, y'all play this on 4K. Half the PC gamers don't have 4K rigs. You know what I'm saying? But I think with 1080p, having games in 1080p is like, I don't know. I don't feel progress. If you came out with another console and everything just ran 1080p 60, knowing that we have sporadic 1080p 60 games on here, I don't feel that next console was progress enough. That's
the point, though. Like, these games that we get now can't even run 60 frames.
That's because that's the console. That's not the games. The consoles can't run it because the hardware is not strong. So that's what I'm saying. The next console, if you did 4K 60, But you got to put the hardware in there. The hardware has to be right. It has to be built correctly. I think under Panos Panay, it will. You look at that Surface Book, as long as the price isn't astronomical like the Surface Book,
Oh
but if
man.
you
Yeah,
look at that
that's what I'm
Surface
saying.
Book,
The
man,
price is going to be up there. If you want 4K gaming on a console, you know how expensive that GPU is going to run?
I don't know, bro. In a year, I don't know. I think a $500 Xbox that ran 4K, 60 locked, that would be everybody would buy that. Don't put Connect in it. Just like have a regular controller. Everybody would buy it, yo. They really would. People would buy it. People would
Mm,
start. They would buy it. They would. That thing would sell out so fast. It'd be out of control. Even the people who hate Xbox would just have to take at least a look at what they're doing. I think it'd be pretty crazy. Let's see here. Chaotic Painter, excuse me, Chaotic Panther says, "You think Microsoft's still making Phantom Dust? That game has potential." I think Microsoft is working on Phantom Dust. They just renewed didn't they renew the trademark recently?
yeah, I think so. I read that.
Just
Yeah.
renewed the trademark, so Phantom Dust isn't going anywhere. I'm sure they're working on it. They're keeping it secret. I wouldn't be surprised if they showed us some type of surprise thing at E3. So
The game is being outsourced. Someone else is making it.
yeah, somebody else is making it.
Expect it to be at
If they show
E3.
yeah, if they show Phantom Dust at E3, I'll be so happy. Because like you, man, RPGs are my favorite, and the Scalebound looks like it's going to be an RPG or have those elements, but
Mhm.
I want like a real RPG, you know. I want Lost Odyssey 2. I
I
think
want Lost Odyssey 2 as well.
I want that so bad.
I don't even want to talk about Miss Walker. It makes me upset. D21 exclusive says, so is Fable franchise altogether gone, or is the IP still under Microsoft belt? The IP is still under Microsoft belt. They still own the IP. It's just the studio and the people at the studio that may no longer be at Microsoft. It's an unfortunate situation for them. Some people I've heard will be relocated and allocated to different other studios within the Microsoft division. But you always have like a lot of low level workers that do a lot of the grunt work. A lot of those people will probably be laid off and maybe picked up by other studios. I would hope sooner rather than later. Let's see. Alan Wake asks.
Before you go on with that question, do you think that the Fable name is now tainted?
No, no, I don't think the Fable name is tainted.
Because I mean, if you look at the past couple of projects, I mean, they weren't really that amazing. You know what I mean? And then to kind of just be like, Fable Legends is done too. So
here's the thing, though. Fable 1, a lot of people loved and felt it was a classic and thought it was the best Fable. I personally loved Fable 2 and thought it was the best Fable. I think we unanimously all hate Fable 3 and are disgusted with Fable, Connect or whatever it is they put out. Fable
Journey.
Legends, yeah, Fable Journey. Fable Legends never came out like fully for casuals or for the entire market. It was just a selective group of people that played it, that's experienced it, and knows the game. So the knowledge of Fable really is just still behind 4 games. You're two out of 4. You still have a chance to make Fable 4 a legitimate game and a vibrant franchise. You look at Crackdown, people were all down on Crackdown. They didn't think it was going to do anything, but now the potential of Cloud changing the game altogether has made Crackdown a viable game again in the eyes of so many people. So I think if Microsoft could do that with Fable 4, they have the potential to make the Fable franchise shine again in a lot of people's eyes.
I think the fact that it's Fable Legends and not Fable 4, it's almost like it's a spin-off.
Yeah, it's
I
a
think
spin-off.
it's okay if they get Fable 4 down the line, which is what everyone really wanted. You know, nobody asked for a 4v1 experimental connected free to play game. Nobody asked for that.
Yeah.
Especially not at the Fable IP. Nobody ever asked for that. And it's true. Nobody asked for it. And if they do find a second party developer, or even after Sea of Thieves, maybe give it to Rare and see what they can do with it. I think the Fable IP is still something worth exploring. So
Yeah.
hopefully they'll agree with me.
Yeah. Alan Wake asks, do you think Microsoft could buy a new studio, and that's the reason why they closed a few studios? I don't think if Microsoft wanted to buy a studio, I don't think they would have had to close studios to do it. They have the money. They do. I just think they really just was probably like I said before, I just think that the negatives and positives didn't match up, and the negatives outweighed the positives when it came to Lionhead and whatever it is that they were producing. As far as press play, maybe the project they were working on was just eating up way too much money, and long term, it didn't add up. I'm not saying that's the truth. We don't know what happened at those studios or why Microsoft made those decisions. But speculation wise and thought wise, I think that's what it would. I think that's kind of like would line up with what I would think would happen um, from a corporation aspect with a developing studio. Thoughts, anybody?
Nope.
Okay, cool.
I agree.
Follow 14 asks, do you think Gigantic will be canceled as well? Um, you want to talk, Jess? Go ahead.
That's a teeth dryer, isn't it? Like where you go, ooh, the thing. I've played Gigantic a lot. The NDA is lifted now, so I can talk about it. Go away, lawyers. But I played Gigantic a lot. I really like it.
Mhm.
It's a very unique game. I think one of the themes about all these games that are getting cancelled is that they kind of have a twinge of uniqueness about them, something that's hard to market and requires more marketing to explain what they actually are. Gigantic it's similar to Smite, really, isn't it? It's a third-person action MOBA, and they have suffered multiple delays, repeated layoffs, which never looks good.
Yeah.
And the game, it's weird though, because the game is in quite a playable state. Some
Yeah.
indie games launch in much worse state than that and sell at least a few thousand copies.
Yeah.
I think they should just release the bloody game. Switch the servers on, make it an open beta, and start making some money. The thing is that there's no monetization mechanisms in the beta right now. I think they should just stick some monetization mechanisms in there, put it in the Xbox game preview, and start making some money. Because if they don't start making some money soon, it could get cancelled. And it's like if Microsoft are willing to cancel a massive project like Fable Legends, which I would guess cost a lot more money than Gigantic,
Yep.
at least to Microsoft, cost Microsoft a lot more money than Gigantic. It makes far more sense that Gigantic could get shut down if they don't do something really soon. They should just launch the game, make it an open beta, and start making some money, and rehire some of those developers. Because I think that it's almost like they're too afraid to do it. It's like the NDA. The NDA was in place up until very recently. I wouldn't have had an NDA for Gigantic back last summer. I thought it was in a really playable state all the way back last summer. I wanted to write articles about it and make videos about it, but I couldn't because I was under NDA. And I was like, well, why is there an NDA? It's already quite good compared to some of the crap that's out there.
We played the game at E3. Myself, B, and Skittles, and we loved it. I mean, they put us on keyboard and mouse, which was blasphemy, but I mean, we had no choice but to play on keyboard and mouse, and it wasn't that difficult. After a while, you get kind of used to it, but still, it wasn't very comfortable. I mean, at the end of the day, though, we got a chance to play the game. The characters were well drawn, the game was very vibrant in color. I love how you launched off the mountain into the game,
and feels really good.
It just felt great, and it was a really exciting game. I thought that might have been one of the few games that, if they would have released, to me, would have been a better pick than actually what they were doing with Fable Legends. Honestly, I really hope the game comes out. But I just think a studio, Motiga, they are looking for investors in the game. I don't know why they just don't talk to Microsoft and just get Microsoft to fully fund the game. I mean, just they're right
Do you
there.
think those games are struggling because some of the bigger publishers are getting into that same lane? Like when you see like Blizzard and Activision coming out with Overwatch, and you got 2K coming, with Battleborn. Do you think they're probably struggling because you got these bigger names, bigger titles, kind of going to release in that same lane?
I don't think so, because I mean, it would be exclusive to Microsoft, and it would be it's not as.
But do you think that's why Microsoft isn't really wanting to get behind it? Because
there's not much competition in the console space.
Yeah, it's not a lot of competition, right? That's what I'm saying. It's like It's very new. Smite was a very successful MOBA on the Xbox One. I think I think what Fable Legends did, and I didn't get a chance to say this earlier. I think Fable Legends missed its boat. I think that's another reason why it got canceled. Before Overwatch and what is the other Paragon? What is it? Paragon, Paradigm, Paragon.
Battleborn.
Yeah,
Battleborn.
yeah, Battleborn. Before all those games started to hit the console, had they released Fable early, they could have really had the market. They really could have had the market
It
to
was
themselves.
it was
But
a launch title. It would have been great.
it would have been great, but they didn't. I think they must say, "Oh, now you have all these games coming out that's very similar, and some are just miles above others, and people are just going to find one, and they're going to stick with that. You know,
Right.
they're going to stick with that MOBA. That's going to be their MOBA. I think Gigantic is missing its boat as well, and if they don't get that game out soon, or they don't just eat their pride and sell the franchise to Microsoft, or talk to Microsoft about just getting fully funded, we're just never going to play the game, and that would
You
be
know,
another IP we lost.
I do agree with you that I kind of feel like they're in a position where they don't want to give up their independence
They
because
don't.
they're probably seeing the success of League of Legends and
Mm-hmm.
Heroes of the Storm and stuff like that, and they're probably thinking, oh, if we give up our independence, we're going to lose all this potential money. But the thing is, if they don't give up, I mean, this is pure speculation. We don't know if this is the case. It could be the case that they did ask Microsoft to purchase the game, and Microsoft just said, no, we don't want it. But if it is the case that they're just being too arrogant about it and they don't want to sell their IP to Microsoft to get the funding they need, they could end up killing themselves, and it could be their fault. And they're in a dire position. They need to do something.
Yeah, they need to do something.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Maybe they did approach Microsoft. Microsoft, kind of looked at the landscape and said, why should we invest in this game to be exclusive when these other
Microsoft don't
bigger
have
games are coming
Microsoft.
to the platform?
Microsoft shouldn't be rejecting nobody at this point. Microsoft needs as many unique IPs and exclusives on their platform as much as possible to continue the diversity that they have been building. If Microsoft sits up there and rejects these IPs that eventually end up on PlayStation and wind up becoming a godsend, it'd be another disappointment. And that's what happens. Microsoft sees a game, they don't like it, they reject it, it ends up on PlayStation, greatest game in the world. It literally happens. That's what
And
happens.
look at BioWare, man. BioWare Mass Effect 1 was a
I'm trying to tell
Microsoft
you,
published game.
I don't know. I swear to God, I feel like I should be working for Microsoft. I literally should be like, I should be like Phil Spencer's advisor. Like seriously.
Everyone feels like that.
Like seriously though, like you see, like Phil sitting there, he's about to. I'm like, why you sign Phil? Let me talk to you for a second. Can we come in the corner? Why you signing up for this game? You know this game is not gonna do well. Like that's how it should be, because like I don't know what's going on. All right, Alexander Barker says, do you think Microsoft would try buying out studios similar to what happened with Mahjong, or do you think they'll go the Halo Wars 2 route and have second, third-party developers make a bulk of exclusives? First of all, I just want to say something real quick. A lot of people talk about Microsoft investing in Mahjong. I've seen a lot of this on Twitter. And I was like, oh my God, they invested in Mahjong. They spent, billions of dollars on Mahjong when they could have made three new AAA IPs. Do you know how much money Minecraft brings into Microsoft regularly? Like literally, Minecraft can hold the entire division up by itself. That's how much money Minecraft makes across all these platforms, and it's about to be on the Wii U, or is it on the Wii U already? I believe.
No, it's coming. It's not on there
coming.
yet.
And it's about to be on the Wii U. It's the one thing that I can say that really Mahjong as a studio is not really reflective of Microsoft first party. It's just I'm Xbox first party. It's just more of a Microsoft thing.
It's
You know
all
what I'm
about the
saying?
service, man.
Yeah, it's all about the service with Mahjong and the IP as itself, because it goes beyond just games. You have
Mo,
movies, you have toys, yeah.
Like Minecraft isn't a complicated game.
It's
It's
not.
coded in JavaScript by one guy.
Right.
It's not like they were buying a studio of talented. I mean, they are talented developers, but it's not like they were buying the talent at Mojang. They were buying the brand. They were buying the audience. They were buying an
Yeah, they were
entire
buying the
generation.
audience. Yep,
Yeah,
that's what they were doing.
entire generation of little kids who will grow up to be adults and look back on Minecraft and be like, "Oh, I loved Minecraft as a little kid,"
And it's
And the
it's
way we look back on Nintendo now.
exactly. It's one of those games that you look at Mario, and if we think about Mario on Super Nintendo, that's exactly what those kids will be doing when they grow up. They'll look at Minecraft and
Exactly.
think of how important it was to them. And remember, Minecraft to this day, right now, is the second highest selling game of all time. So
Is it?
yes,
I
it
didn't know that.
is. Yep, it's the
Damn.
second highest selling game of all time. It's everywhere. Everybody has it. Everybody's on it. So that was a good decision for them, and that is something that will sustain them for a very long time financially. Them picking up, trying to outsource to multiple studios, second party, third party, is not a good idea. It is absolutely the worst idea they could possibly do. I think doing it. Um,
It can work. I
no,
mean, we've seen it. It can work. We've
it
seen it work
can't.
with Remedy.
It
We've seen
doesn't
it
work
work with Remedy.
Yeah, but it doesn't work long term. Like right,
It's risky. It's risky because Remedy could just turn around and say, "Nah, we don't want to make Alan Wake 2," or
exactly.
"Nah, we don't want to make Quantum Break 2." But it is risky. But if the relationship is there and the relationship is good, and you've got to believe that the relationship with Remedy is pretty damn good.
It's a good relationship, but you see people. You know what people fear? It's the same thing that we all say. Microsoft needs to buy Remedy. They need to buy them. They need to lock them up because of the insecurity of not having another game being made. That's why it's not a good look. I just think about this for 1 second. Remember Hideki Kamiya when he got mad at Microsoft because he didn't want to go on the stage
Good
at
point. That's a good
Gamescom?
point.
Now
Yeah,
think
yeah.
about that as his attitude. Imagine if Microsoft really pissed him off and he said, "I'm not making another Scalebound. I'm not making Scalebound 2," and we have an
Or
incomplete.
not making this
I would
current Scalebound.
lose my mind. I would lose it. I would go crazy. I would go on the fanboy rant the Xbox community had never seen before. You thought the people who went on Phil was bad? Oh, I would a whole week of I would be banned from Twitter. Let that happen. Let something like that happen because he has an attitude about something. And that's what I'm saying. You just don't need that type of insecurity. First party studios are important because you know that those games will constantly keep coming and you know that those studios will constantly be in a creative mindset to make new IPs and things like that. Microsoft needs to continue to invest in first party. Whatever their reasons for getting rid of those other two studios were, I don't know. It's disappointing, but it's nothing to fret over. As studios come, studios go, and hopefully we have some new stuff coming up at E3. Let's see here. Pal Sid says, question: do you think the upgrade would do for the Xbox? Excuse me. What do you think the upgrade would do for the Xbox? Stronger and cleaner 1080p, 60 frames per second, or 4K? I don't think they would do anything between 1080p and 4K. Yeah, we touched on this earlier. I think that if you go for an upgrade, people have to understand that when you do this upgrade, you're not going to do something to the point to where it's impossible to not play it on the older console. Whatever they do upgrade-wise, it's just going to be better frames, better shadows, textures, little things that's a improvement on the game overall. But it keeps that console within the same. I guess you could say it makes the game at the same frame as the older model, so that way the game scales and everybody can play, and it's just one continuous thing between the ecosystem within Windows. So I think that if Microsoft do invest in an upgrade for the console, the next console they have will be able to do all those things and more, but not to the point to where you can only make this game for this one console. That just doesn't work with what they're trying to do.
Mm.
Let's see. Give me 1 second, guys.
I need a cup of tea.
All right. What time is it? What do we have right here? Okay. So we're going to do about 10 more minutes if we can, if there's enough questions. If not, we will end it when we get to the bottom of the comment section. So let's see. Why? There's so many comments, and this thing just jumped to the bottom of the screen. All right, here we go. Joe Z asks, what about their presence in the UK now? With these studios closing, they are losing even more of the European appeal. What do you think, Jess?
Well, as a Brit, I was never really a big fan of Fable, so I don't care. Nah, I mean, they've still got Rare, you know, and the British government is making a big deal about gaming now. They've finally realised that it's good for the economy since Grand Theft Auto is one of our biggest exports. You know, it's not cars, it's not oil, it's Grand Theft Auto. And so it's not like Fable Legends closing down is going to dent their appeal in Europe much. But I don't live in the UK right now. I live in Germany. Nobody here has an Xbox One. Literally nobody. You go in a game shop, there's PS4s everywhere, PS4 games everywhere, and there's a tiny little shelf in the corner for Xbox One. It really sucks. I mean, their appeal in Europe is quite bad. But I never really thought that Fable Legends was really a game that would have... the thing is, when it comes to appealing in Europe as a whole, a British game's not going to do that, to be honest. It needs to be these sort of mass market games, and I don't feel like Fable Legends had mass market potential purely on the basis that it was free. But if it wasn't free, I don't think Fable Legends would have the mass market power it needs to really bring more Europeans in. You know, and the thing is, a lot of the people who worked at Lionhead weren't even from Britain. You know,
Right.
There are a lot of Americans on the team, people from all over Europe, and Microsoft have said they're committed to European development, and they are aware that they need to do better in Europe, and that's why they have such a massive presence at Gamescom every year. I hope they have another one this year because they're out there in force at Gamescom, man. They had a massive booth. Aaron Greenberg was there, Phil Spencer was there, Major Nelson was there. They were all there treating it like another E3, you know.
Nice.
And they had all the major announcements there, or like half of them. And it's not like they announced like weaker things at Gamescom compared to E3. The announcements were fairly balanced, apart from backwards compatibility, I thought. So I think Microsoft are pretty aware they need to do better in Europe. But it just boils down to the fact that Fable Legends itself probably just wasn't the answer, you know.
Gotcha.
Sadly.
We're gonna speed this up a little bit. We're running down on time. I know a lot of people have questions. We're gonna try to answer those for you guys. So, Juan Leon asks, do you think the writers from 38 Studios, makers of Kingdom and Alamar, should work on Fable franchise? And you know what's funny that you said
they
that?
would be so dope.
They would be the perfect studio.
They would be so dope. Kingdoms of Amalur is one of the most slept on RPGs from last gen.
Yeah.
Didn't they get shut down though?
They got shut down.
That's Kurt Schilling's studio,
Kurt
man.
Schilling's studio.
Big fan of those guys.
I love that game. That game was awesome. I thought about that too, but then I was gonna say it because I was like, they don't exist. So what's the point? But yeah, it would be cool if they did. Courtney Spence says, "I'm a day one owner." That's what's up, Courtney. Shout out to you. I'm, you know, if you're disappointed in what Microsoft is doing, don't be. Trust me, they got some special things coming. It's disappointing to hear about the first party studios, but Microsoft and the Xbox brand is not going anywhere, and neither is the console. Brock Raybon says, "Question: why won't Microsoft come out and say something to us as loyal fans about today's news? Give us something positive instead of leaving us guessing about all of this." Well, this is what I can tell you, Brock. The reason why Microsoft is not going to do it is because it's bad PR. Even if they wanted to come out and tell you the truth, it's bad PR.
Yeah, there's no way to really clean that up.
There's no way you can clean it up. It's not a good look, no matter how you look at it. It's better to just not say anything at all. It really isn't.
I mean, you can use the example of Don Matrick trying to explain the DRM and stuff, and saying, "Oh well, we've got a console that does offline. It's called an Xbox 360." You know, that is true. That's a true statement. It's a factual statement, but
Right.
It doesn't sound very
It
good.
sounds like right. You just can't put yourself in a position because you know a lot of media and a lot of people will become sarcastic and they'll poke you and then you get into a situation that you don't want to be in. Whatever the decision was a business decision, and it was a decision that the public doesn't need to know about. It's unfortunate it happened. We know that it's happened, but hopefully Microsoft will produce something new and special coming up soon at E3. Jazz, you have something to say?
Sorry, I was just I don't know. I've lost track now. My phone just it just crashed.
Okay.
It broke my flow. It's like it crashed
Alright.
again.
Alan Wake
Sorry.
asks question: could Microsoft buy a big publisher, and that's the reason for closing a few studios? I don't know if Microsoft is spending that type of money. I don't think they're looking to buy a big publisher. Microsoft has tried to open up some smaller studios here and there. They put money into their new studios, and they've invested in third party. All of these go back to their own portfolio and their IPs. I don't know if Microsoft is going out to pump out millions and millions of dollars to pick up a major studio. Even if they wanted to, I don't know a major studio who would want to be bought. Yeah, I don't know.
What if they bought Rocket League?
Psyonix? Nah, that wouldn't go over well.
No, I think that'd be
Nah.
cool, man. I mean,
Nah.
League of Legends sold up eventually.
It's bad enough they got Mahjong with all these multi-platform games. Now they got Psyonix with their game both on PlayStation and Xbox, and
That's just more money, man.
and the PlayStation has crossplay with PC. Microsoft don't even have crossplay with PC, so I don't.
They're in the business. They want to buy. If they are looking to buy anything up, they're looking to buy brands. They're not looking to buy publishers or studios.
Yeah.
They're looking to buy. They don't need the expertise or the art. You can hire that in. You know.
Yeah.
They did it for HoloLens. They hired in Casey Hudson. Is that his name?
Yeah.
And,
Casey Hudson. Yeah, the writer for Mass Effect.
Yeah, you know you can hire these people in from other studios, but if they want to buy something, they'll buy a brand. You know, they'll buy Minecraft, they'll buy Rocket League. You know, I'm not saying they're going to buy Rocket League, but
Right.
I'm saying Rocket League's the sort of thing they would buy. It's a platform upon which they can sell loads of skin packs and DLC.
What they could buy is Ark. Now they could buy Ark. It's a DX12 game. And if they make that cross play and cross buy, that would be a good look.
I don't think so. It's too hardcore.
Jesse
Man.
gonna sell that, man.
Too hardcore.
Nah, Jesse not selling that. Hell no.
Jesse not selling that, man. That's
Jesse-
a gem right there.
Jesse making bread right now. He definitely putting that on PlayStation without question. Yeah, but I don't see them picking up a major publisher. Like Jess said, if they're gonna buy something, they're just gonna buy the IP or they're gonna buy the brand. They're not gonna pick up a major studio unless that studio is selling for like Walmart prices. You know what I'm saying? Like new low price. $10 million for Sega. And even then, it's hard to get a Japanese studio because the Japanese have some type of law in effect where a non-Japanese company cannot be bought, cannot buy or purchase a full-blown Japanese studio.
I'm not sure if that's true. You know, I think
It
that
is.
might be one of those.
No,
urban legends.
No, it's not. It's some type of legacy
Really?
thing. Yeah, it's like some type of legacy thing where it's like a Jap. They try to keep all their studios within their own culture. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. Weird stuff. Okay.
Weird.
So we're getting ready to finish up, guys, and everything. I really thank everybody for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Had a lot of fun tonight. A lot of good chats. D21 asks, do you think a wave of backwards compatible games will start swarming in since later this month you can buy 360 games straight from the Xbox One? I don't think they'll swarm in, but they'll increase. I don't even know they'll increase more often. They'll just increase. Be honest with you, it's probably just going to be the same way. The only difference is now you can see what's available, and if you want to buy it, you can. Like I've been wanting to buy Stick of Truth for a long time because I didn't play South Park Stick of Truth, and now it's be available. Actually, I think they're supposed to put this update out tomorrow for the 360 store. I've heard it's already available in like the UK or something like that. So we should be getting that update pretty soon. Brock Rayban asks, why is Microsoft communication so poor? Did they learn nothing from 2013? Communication is key. I think Microsoft's communication is poor is because they don't have a spokesperson that talks. Like a person that actually talks. All the people that talks are actually all the people that actually make decisions. Phil talks, Greenberg talks, Major Nelson talks. Like all these people.
They used to have one. What was his name now?
I don't know, but they don't have a person that knows how to communicate, and I think that they have PR that's writing things for them or telling them what to say. But even in that regard, if a PR person that knows how to talk PR, if you put them there, you wouldn't have a communication problem because they know how to talk to people, they know how to persuade people, they know how to, spin things and stuff like that, which makes people shut up. But when you're talking to Phil, because Phil is the boss, people want answers because they feel like Phil can give them the answers immediately. Like, you're the man in charge, you're the president. Give me the answers right now. Don't give me some, half-ass stuff. I want things right now. But Phil still is a part of a bigger business, and as president, there's certain things you can and you cannot say. There's certain things you can reveal and you cannot reveal. So this could be leading to something bigger, something special, or it could lead to nothing. We all don't know, and that's why we have to wait and not jump to conclusions.
Man, I think that's the gift and the curse of who Phil Spencer is. He's always been one to talk to fans on Twitter and things like that, and kind of have open communication. But as he stepped into his new role, there's just some things he can't divulge, to the fans. And I think, with Major Nelson kind of being that community guy, he should be the one who kind of communicates, anything that they have to say in regards to PR, since he kind of has his pulse on the community. But they don't really utilize him in that way. So
yeah,
maybe that's something they have to take a look at and maybe fix in the future.
Yeah. So we're coming up. We got 5 minutes left. I'm going to try to hurry up and run through these questions and try to give you one-word answers to get to the bottom of the comment section, which we're almost there. Supersonic Station asks, do you know details of Ori and the Blind Forest? Will owners of vanilla games have to pay for a definitive edition? Is it DLC? Is it cross-buy? If
yes.
I don't know.
We interviewed the developer.
You have to rebuy. You have to rebuy.
Yes, you have. There's not going to be any DLC. You have to rebuy the game to get
that. Is, I'm going on a rant about that. Super Pot Shots will have a rant about Ori the Blind Forest having to be repurchased for a person that already owns it. That is horrible news.
There's a small upgrade fee. They haven't said what the upgrade fee would be. Okay. I would assume that it would be like $7.99 maybe.
Yeah, there's going to be some kind of discount. But you do have to get the new SKU to get it.
Yeah, I don't mind that. If you give me something like what Minecraft did, like if you own Minecraft on 360, pay $5 and you get the whole game and upgrade, that's fine. But you tell me I gotta buy the whole game over again at full price? Nah, son.
That's what the Destiny guys got in trouble for, isn't it?
They're gonna have me out here looking like an alternate universe Superman, just blasting everybody in a second. That's making me spaz out. Let's see here. Powell said, I was asked if they added a module for the Xbox One, what would that do for the console? If they added a module, I think the only place it could go after some thought would be the Kinect port. The Kinect port, because the Kinect has its own processor, would be the only place I could think of that's fast enough to maybe even put
the Kinect port it's no faster than USB 3. It's about the same speed. No. Because you got to think that Kinect version 2 is available for Windows as well. And it uses USB 3, which means the Kinect port is no faster than USB 3.
Well, I thought it was faster, but I mean, I know the Kinect has its own processor, so I'm thinking of the same thing. If you were going to add an add-on module to the Xbox One to increase its power, like a second GPU or something like that.
A second GPU would need USB-C or Thunderbolt, which is like what that new Razer Stealth laptop does. It's got like an external dock. You can put a proper, DGPU in it, but it uses USB-C, which is the next one after USB 3. It's a slightly bigger socket, but no, I think the Kinect port is. I mean, I'm not 100% on this, but if Kinect 2 for Windows uses USB 3.0, I doubt that the Kinect port for Xbox One is any faster than that.
Gotcha. Well, there you go. Looks like you can't add anything to the Xbox at this point. More than likely, we'll probably get an upgraded console at E3 if they announce a Slim or something like that, or maybe we just have to wait till next gen. We'll see. Let's see here. Okay, Joey Z says, what do you think about Microsoft losing a big UK presence with the European game development not helping them gain any ground in Europe. I mean, I did see an ex-developer from Lionhead say some stuff today. He worked on Fable 3, so I don't take anything he says serious. Um, I just can't. You worked on Fable 3. The game was terrible, but
Mm.
I do understand him talking about Microsoft as a first-party destroyer. That was not a good look from the outside for anybody who don't know who he is or what he worked on. It's just not a good look to hear that and see that from a developer. It just puts Microsoft in a bad light. But again, Microsoft is a business. It's a company. It's not like PlayStation or Sony. Sony is a hardware company, a hardware manufacturer. Microsoft is a software company, and they're just a bigger company. There's just more to Microsoft than it is to Sony. And Microsoft, when you do certain things and you have this name and you're so renowned worldwide and you have this history, there's a lot of things that people look at history wise and they just don't agree with, and they just see you as a negative. So the more negative that you have, it's not good. It's just not good at all. A lot of people are blowing this out of proportion. I'm only disappointed because they lost a studio, and they lost a studio that makes RPGs, but for whatever reason they got rid of the studio. It had to be a serious reason to get rid of Lionhead, a staple a
Yeah.
staple studio that was with Microsoft since inception of the Xbox. So if you're getting rid of them, it's a serious thing that happened with that studio, and it's unfortunate that it happened. Press Play, on the other hand, I don't know why they got rid of that studio. Maybe it was just collateral damage, but maybe they just wanted to absorb the studio into something else because financially it made better sense. But it's unfortunate that Knoxville got canceled in the process as well.
Or they want to grow Sea of Thieves so big that it'll take on World of Warcraft. Maybe. No.
Cool. Well, that's it, man. That's it for tonight. If I want to thank everybody for joining and commenting and chatting with us once again. If I can give you something positive to take away from this whole entire conversation and what's happening out there in the world, what I can tell you is that the Xbox brand is still a strong brand. The problem is that it's in a transition, and as
Yes.
as console gamers, we don't understand that. We don't get that. All we want to do is play games. As a person who understands business, when you're making business decisions, a lot of bad things happen before you can move on to a straight road and a smooth road. It's a lot of bumps and things that have to make that has to be done. So in that process, the only thing we can do as gamers is wait and watch and wait and watch and not jump the gun. We can be disappointed, we can be upset, but the last thing you want to do is make a decision and regret it later. I think Microsoft still got games coming. We still got Sea of Thieves. You still got Halo Wars. You still got Gears 4. You still got Scalebound, Recore, Quantum Break is coming out. There's games that's going to be announced at E3. There's games that's going to be announced at Gamescom. So before you jump the gun about Microsoft has no games and they're loser studios, just wait. Just wait till these things pass so you can see what they're doing. We don't know what studios they're going to announce in the future. We don't know what they have. What I do know is that the Xbox console itself is constantly evolving. The operating system is the best operating system on any platform. And Phil Spencer is dedicated to the Xbox One console and talked about upgrades and talked about upgrades in a what is it, Jazz? I'm trying to find a word. It's like moving from one device to another, but keeping unison.
Device agnosticism.
There you go. Right, device agnostic. There you go. And he's talked about being device agnostic, and what that means is that even if you have an Xbox One or the next Xbox, the games are scalable under the Universal Windows platform, meaning any developer that makes a game under that can make that game run on either the Xbox One or the next iteration of the Xbox, and everybody can be happy, and we'll all still be in the same ecosystem, still playing multiplayer and still enjoying ourselves. There's no console out there doing that. There's none. It is innovation. It is very innovative, and it is something that if Microsoft does, they will be the ones to change the video game console like no one else has ever done before. It will change the game. And if they start putting out hardware every 4 to 5 years for $299 or $400, and you trade your Xbox in and you get it for $350 or $300, and PlayStation still has the same console or Nintendo has the same console for the next 10 years, at some point when those third-party games start looking better and running better, and playing better on that new iteration of a console, Nintendo and Sony will have no choice but to join that situation.
That's the kicker, really. They want to lead. Even though they're behind, they might be behind in raw sales, but they want to lead what the console paradigm is going to be like in the
Right,
future.
right.
That's what UWP is. Even though Microsoft might be behind on Windows Phone and tablets behind Apple, UWP makes them a leader in terms of the technology, because
Hmm.
Apple can't port those experiences across their devices like Microsoft can, and Sony won't be able to. Sony doesn't have backwards compatibility. Like, just as a basic example, there's not going to be any PS3 backwards compatibility for the PS4, and there's not going to be any. Microsoft are going to be doing that for the original Xbox and the Xbox 360, and all those games and experiences will be on the Xbox 2 and the Xbox 3,
Yep.
and that library of content
It's going to be
is going to be
insane. Yup.
agnostic, and Sony don't have that, and they're not going to be able to compete with that eventually. I
And
mean, when backwards compatibility has hundreds of games, like, it's just going to be incredible, and people want that assurance that every game I get on my Xbox now is going to work on my future Xbox too.
and that's the one thing that will separate the console and make people buy it. And that's why I said before. I said that is what's going to make people buy the game, because if I play, let's say I got the next Grand Theft Auto, I got the next Mass Effect, the next Battlefield, and all that stuff, and then I get on the next Xbox, and all those games come with me because they were on Xbox One, and they scale up and they're agnostic to on the device. What that's incredible.
It's
That is
awesome.
something. My library is constantly growing with more and more. It's like music. It's like if you get the iPhone 4, you get the iPhone 5, and now you have the iPhone 6. All the music you accumulated over all that time is now on iPhone 6. That's
Microsoft,
yeah. There's
yeah.
thousands and thousands of songs. Think about that. Thousands and thousands of games that you own on one platform.
Phil even described Xbox as being like iTunes when he first
Yep.
joined the platform.
Mm.
So that's the mentality he's got moving forward. Is that it's a platform, and the console is your iPhone, and all that content, your iTunes music, or in this case games, will come with you. And that's Phil Spencer's mentality, and he said that himself. It's
Yeah.
not speculation.
Yeah, it moves with you, and I think that's the big thing people are forgetting. You add that with the upgraded hardware every mid-generation, and you have something special. And I think that's what they can do. But I think in order for them to grow the Windows platform for the PC gamer to appeal to them, they have to continue to create more first-party games, and that's why I kind of gripe about first-party studios being lost. I don't know the reasons behind it, once again, but they need to continue to build first party, and they need to continue to make first party games. So again, thank everybody for coming on the show. I want to thank Jez for stopping in. I really appreciate it. We're gonna have him on the show a little bit more as we can get the time right. He's in Germany, so it's really early in the morning for him right now. But we definitely appreciate him coming in, and I want to thank everybody for checking out the show.
So,
I'm your boy KLYS Kal-El, the last on the planet Xbox with B Money 101 and Jesse, and we are off this planet. Peace. Peace.
going to the promised land.